time to buy a house. You're probably wondering, what fees should I expect to pay with this purchase? Well, you guys have come to the right spot. I'm Ty Brown with the Millennial Group, and today what we're going to talk about are the fees that are involved with purchasing a home on the real estate agent side, and how to properly prepare for those fees, and what questions to really ask your real estate broker when it comes time to hire a real estate professional. So let's dive in and get started. All right, guys, so I love this topic. I love educating people because I feel like a lot of folks are not aware coming into purchasing a home, especially in today's new real estate environment. They're not aware of the fees, and they're not aware of the random costs that could be involved with your real estate purchase. And I am so transparent about this stuff with all of my clients, and I want to be transparent with you as well when it comes to like what may be something to look out for when you're beginning the process of hiring a real estate professional to help you find and negotiate on the transaction of your home. So typically what I use and what most real estate agents in the state of Oregon use are the OREF Buyer's Representation Agreement forms. Now we have two sets of forms. We have an exclusive buyer's representation agreement. And basically what that means is if you sign that document with your real estate professional, you are to work with just that real estate professional in that state or in that area, depending on how you guys, structure your contract agreement. And then the non-exclusive buyer's representation agreement pretty much just outlines that, hey, legally, I have to sign an agreement with you if I'm going to show you houses, but you are free to work with however many agents you want. Those two agreements are very, very important to determine whether or not this is the person you're going to work solely with, right? And based on which agreement you decide to go with, there may be different types of fees that real estate broker may expect to be paid as they are helping you with your home search. So I'm going to start with the buyer's representation agreement that is for exclusivity, because that is typically the one I usually work with, and usually more than likely what a real estate agent would like to work with. And then I'll do a separate video on the non-exclusive, but they're pretty similar in terms of like how fees could be structured. But let me know in the comments if you guys want me to walk you through in further detail the non-exclusive. How about that? I'll let you guys decide. So for the exclusive buyer's representation agreement, basically it's outlining that, again, you will be working with that real estate professional until the end of the contract term. And that is something that can also be negotiated, how long you decide to work with that realtor during this process, which is great. It's amazing. I love that. And in that agreement, it typically will outline where you are looking to buy a home and where that agent's responsible for showing you houses in. So for me, I live in Portland, Oregon, and I service all of Portland, Oregon, and I service Southwest Washington. So Vancouver, Camas, Washougal, Woodland, those areas. And so what I typically would write in that agreement is that depending on where you're looking, if it's in my service area, I would write most of the time the Portland metropolitan area. But that's something you and your agent need to have a dialogue about. Like, where are you guys going to look? And can your agent service that area? So that's the first thing that typically is addressed in those agreements. And then as you go a little bit further down in the agreement, it has some other random verbiage, but since this video is focusing on fees, it will have a clause in that contract that states whether or not there would be basically a retainer. So that's something you want to ask your real estate agent, right? You want to ask them, hey, am I responsible for paying any upfront fees in order for for you to represent me in this transaction? Be transparent. Like, don't be afraid to ask. And I think that is the key thing. Like, if you want to work with this person, there should be no fear in addressing how they expect to get paid, right? There should not be fear in that. And if you are fearful of asking that, that probably isn't the best person for you to work with because they scare you for some reason, right? But ask about a retainer. Is it a upfront fee? And if there is, can I get that credited back to me at closing? And our OREF, Buyer's Representation Agreement forms for the state of Oregon, does have that verbiage. Like, here's the upfront fee that agent will charge you to begin the process. And you can decide whether or not that fee is refundable at closing. And you want to ask about that. And I think that's very, very important. The second thing that is typically talked about is a commission fee. And that's the big one that everyone really knows and talks about, right? Like, everyone knows agents are paid mainly from their commission. So you want to address that. Like, what do they charge? And you also want to ask them, like, what services are they providing you outside of, like, sending you houses and opening the door for you? Like, have them really explain to you, like, why their fee is that much. Because I think that opens the door for agents to really understand their value proposition, but also for the consumer or the buyer or the client to understand, like, the work that is put into all of this. Because I feel, and most people feel, that there's this negative or like misconception that agents get paid too much. And I think it's because we as real estate agents aren't transparent about the work that we actually do. So ask your agent, like, okay, you're telling me you're charging me this much. What do I get for that? Like, put them on the spot. Don't be afraid to put them on the spot. And they should be ready to address that answer if they're good at what they do and if they actually do what they say they do. And hold them accountable to that too. Make sure everything they're telling you that they're going to do, that they do. Don't be afraid to hold them accountable. But the best part about the commission and our OREF forms and how the clause is, or that clause is conveyed, is that yes, there is a fee that is likely to be charged at the end of the transaction. Once the property closes, the client will be paid. And in the state of Oregon, what we're noticing now, or let me be more specific, in the Portland Metro, what we're noticing now is that some sellers are starting to be a little less open to paying commissions, and for the buyer's agent, for your agent, for instance. Initially, they may give some pushback to that, and obviously, like, your agent is supposed to, like, really negotiate and see if they can get that covered by the seller. But I am noticing from my experience that I'm getting a little bit more pushback as I'm approaching these types of situations. And so I want to be transparent with you all about that there. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every time, but if you're looking at a lot of houses and you've ran a few offers, you've probably come across that at least once, where a seller's like, I'm not paying your buyer's agent commission. You pay your own buyer's agent commission. And all that is to say is that I want you guys to be prepared for that. And ask yourself, like, do I have the money to pay my agent in the event all else fails? Right? Like, you want to have that open, transparent conversation about that with your agent. On the flip side of that, though, I will say that the buyer's representation agreement does also show that in the event your agent is a badass and manages to have the seller cover the cost of their fee, obviously you would not be responsible for paying them at closing. It would be just the seller. And so the tricky thing with that is, if that commission that the seller is willing to pay is less than the commission that's in your buyer's representation agreement, you will be responsible for paying that remainder of that fee. So here's an example of what I mean by that. If your buyer's agent tells you that they charge 3%, and you guys go on your merry way, begin looking at houses, and wonderful. You found the house of your dreams and you're ready to write an offer on it, and you do. And the sellers are reviewing the offer and they see that your buyer's agent requested that they pay that 3% fee. And they, thought about it and they decided, look, I'm not paying 3%, I'm willing to pay 2%. So that spread, that delta between the 3 and that 2, or that 2 and the 3, you'll be responsible for paying that 1%. And that's something that you want to prepare yourself for. And again, ask yourself if you are able and you're okay with doing. That's the flip side of it, right? Whatever remaining fee is there, you will be responsible for paying. If the seller is able to pay for all of it, great, you have nothing to worry about. You likely will just be responsible for the retainer fee, which hopefully is credited back at closing, but it may not. It really depends on who you work with. And you can move on your merry way. You don't have to worry about the commission at the very least if the seller decides to cover that. And finally, another common fee that is in our exclusive buyer representation agreement documents is the termination fee. Now, the termination fee is basically a fee that is charged in the event you cancel your buyer representation agreement contract with your broker before the term date. So, if you signed a contract with your agent that was set to expire on February 14th, 2026, and you decided to cancel the agreement for whatever reason, it can be, maybe you got cold feet and no longer want to buy a house right now, maybe you're tired of the process, maybe you lost the job, it could be anything that happens that could cause you to have to terminate, and life happens, and that's okay. But if it is canceled on, again, term date, it ends on the 14th of 2026 of February, and you cancel on January 1st of 2026, you may have a termination fee that you'll be responsible for paying the real estate agent. And I want to make that very clear that, I'm noticing it is becoming more common, and I'm noticing that more agents are beginning to charge those fees. And you want to ask your real estate agent what that termination fee is, and also you want to ask them how soon would you expect me to make that payment after the contract's been terminated. And your agent should be able to explain to you what those expectations are if they do charge a termination fee. Like I said, not all agents may charge it. Because I don't want to speak for everyone's business, but most do. And you want to have that open dialogue about what that expectation is for the cost and when you can expect to get paid for it. But overall, those are the top 3 fees that are in the buyer's representation agreements. Again, everyone runs their business differently. There may be other fees that are added into the contract from your broker. And ultimately, the point of this video is to ask them what those fees are. And so that you can be properly prepared for any situation and pretty much try to risk mitigate as much as possible. Because agents are beginning to protect themselves, and this is me just being open about it. They're beginning to protect themselves. They are beginning to realize, I can't show a bunch of houses, write a bunch of offers, and then not get paid for my time. And rightfully so. I mean, you want to ask yourself the same thing. If you went to work every day for your boss and, they don't want to pay you, that'd be a different situation. So just be understanding of why that is becoming more common, and be understanding that you have to prepare for that, because you are, at the end of the day, hiring and engaging a professional for professional services, and there are fees associated with that. So just properly prepare, have money set aside for it, see how you can make it a win-win situation with whoever you decide to hire, so it can work well for both of you if certain fees aren't feasible. And if you come across a bunch of brokers that are saying the same thing and you can't pay that, then my recommendation would be to wait a little bit and save a little bit more money, so that you can hire a really good real estate professional to take care of you during this process, because it is not an easy process. It is not. And that's why there are folks that specialize in this stuff, right? So that's the fees in a nutshell. And I would love to hear from you guys about what other questions you may have, what other videos I can put together and address. And I just want to be that resource for folks who are buying and selling. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I will be more than happy to make a video about it and address those questions for you. And thank you for taking the time for watching this if you've made it all the way to the end. And I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video.